Immunization is one of the most successful and cost-effective public health interventions. Immunization programs have led to eradication of smallpox, elimination of measles and poliomyelitis in regions of the world, and substantial reductions in the morbidity and mortality attributed to diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. The World Health Organization, the WHO, estimates 2 million child deaths were prevented by vaccination in 2003. On the other hand, parents are our guardians. Every parent has a say in anything related to their child. From the moment a child is born, his or her parents are and should be involved in every decision related to that child. By now, ladies and gentlemen, you already know the motion raised in the Parliament today is, as a doctor, this House would vaccinate children who they treat with or without parental consent. And for some certain logical reasons, we are proud to be on the side of science. Regarding a child's parental views, need to be respected as much as possible, but they are not absolute. Children have the right to health, and the state has the power in appropriate circumstances to intervene in order to protect that right. The question is what those circumstances are and what they might include the requirement of vaccinations. In most circumstances, it is not appropriate to order vaccination against parents' will. However, there are factors which would lead people to conclude differently. The conclusion should be made based on life-threatening versus non-life-threatening situations. First of all, there is no doubt about the fact that whatever decision a parent or guardian may take, it is obviously because they think this is the best thing for their child. But most of the time, parental perception is molded on emotions. And even though they think it's best, when sometimes they are overpowered by emotions, they become irrational and make those irrational and erratical decisions. There are some rumors regarding vaccination, such as if a child is vaccinated, he or she may suffer from autism or something. But this is absolutely not true and are nothing but rumors and myths. And it is obvious when a parent hears these, they might be highly concerned, and their attitude towards vaccination will obviously be negative, because they would want that, because medically they are not very well informed. Apart from that, parents can evaluate medical emergency. They can tell what to do medically, and that's when the doctor steps in, which after all is their area of expertise. Our honorable opposition leader have said that if the doctors are allowed to use vaccines with or without parental consent, they might use various test drugs or something like that, which may harm the child. But what our opposition leader should remember is if the doctor makes a wrong call, the doctor would be sued and his license would be at stake, which wouldn't allow him to practice medicine. Hence, the doctor's life is also on the line, which is enough to prevent him from making any crappy decisions. Apart from that, a doctor who has studied medicine for years is bound to know more about healthcare than any parent and make rational decisions based on logic and science and what's best for the child itself. Again, there is also the fact of negligence. Even though parents care most about the child, there are some parents, maybe not many, but there are few who neglect their child. Well, neglect is a harsh term, but if a child has some absentee parents, it's not his fault. Why should he not get the right to why should he be deprived of his right to be vaccinated? Now, let's come to the point of moral obligation. When doctors actually start working as doctors, they have actually taken an oath to serve the patients in whatever way possible. If doctors doesn't vaccinate a child because of not having consent from the parents, he made an informed choice and hence has to bear the responsibility if anything happens to the child. At the end of the day, people consider doctors to be some sort of gods and they trust them. And at certain times, people will be unruly, and as doctors, they have to take voluntary measures. They will be responsible for that child. And if they don't, they will be guilty of making a choice which risks the life of a child, not just any risk but a fatal risk. And that doctor will have to live with the conscience of maybe risking the life of a child whose life depended on one single decision that he had to make. By comparison, most childhood vaccines are highly effective, over 95% for several such as measles and hepatitis B with a complete course, and generally over 70%. The opposition said about how ineffective the influenza vaccine was, which is absolutely a wrong information. Even though influenza vaccine, by contrast, is less effective but not ineffective, depending on the year. For example, the effectiveness of the vaccine of influenza from 2012 to 2013 was 64% in children, and that of 2011 to 2012 was 47% in all age groups. Again, the opposition said about the right to practice own religion, but in which religion is it allowed to knowingly harm a child? I mean, risking the life of a child for some silly superstition or religious misconception is just ludicrous. Not to mention, there is nothing in any religion against vaccination. Where in which religion, like Hinduism, Muslim, Buddhism, is there anything against vaccination? Apart from that, the people have the general perception that vaccines are harmful and may cause problems. But a highly qualified doctor named John Sinder, in his book The New Plague, has stated that there is no proof regarding vaccines being harmful. Though there are many people who do not support vaccination, yet they can't provide any logical or scientific proof against their theory of vaccines being harmful. Yes, vaccines may be harmful to some extent, but their benefits are even more. I mean, if we compare the benefits of vaccines and the harmful effects of vaccines, I mean, it is like almost 90% and 10%, where 90% is the benefit of vaccines and 10% is the harmful effects of vaccines, which are very mild. I mean, so if we are to give vaccines, I think the benefits should be considered, because even though if vaccines are given and do not work, the risk will not be fatal. But if vaccines are not given by an informed choice of the doctor, then the consequences might be drastic and somewhat fatal. So after my speech, I think it should be crystal clear why this motion should be passed in the Parliament. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all.